Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a really hot topic in blockchain. Ethereum's dominance. Is it truly unshakable?
Right, and what does the future look like with competitors like Solana really picking up steam?
Exactly. We're going to look at this whole landscape, the competition, the tech, the trends.
Yeah, we've been digging through YouTube analyses, news updates, educational stuff too, trying to get a handle on Ethereum versus Solana.
So our mission here is to pull out the key insights. Where do things stand now? Where might they be going? Basically, give you the clearest picture we can.
Let's do it. Starting with Ethereum, its current status, and maybe more importantly, its future plans.
Okay, so yeah, you hear some chatter about Ethereum's price maybe stagnating a bit, but there's a lot happening under the surface, development-wise.
Oh, definitely. There's ongoing work, proposed upgrades. One big one that caught my eye is this potential move from the current PO EVM to RASCV.
RACV. Okay, that sounds pretty technical. Break that down for us. What's the significance?
Well, think of it as a new, maybe more open instruction set for computers. The idea or the hope is that it could make Ethereum, faster, more efficient, especially for complex stuff like zero-knowledge proofs. That's a big area. Verifying things without revealing the underlying data. RICV could make that much more practical on-chain.
Okay. And what about existing apps, smart contracts?
That's the crucial part. The plan is they'll still be supported. So it's more like an engine upgrade, not a total rebuild that breaks everything. Evolution, not revolution.
Got it. Like getting a better engine without needing a whole new car. I also saw mentions of increasing the gas limit. What's that about?
Yes, the Fusaka upgrade. They're talking about a 4 times increase. Target is 150 million gas per block, maybe late 2025.
And gas limit.
Yeah.
Basically how much stuff can fit in a block, right?
Exactly. More gas, more transactions per block. It's not about adding fancy new features per se, but just increasing the network's capacity. Think adding more lanes to the highway.
Makes sense. Improving traffic flow. Now, despite all the competition talk, Ethereum still carries a lot of weight, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You can't ignore its position. Second biggest market cap, still the largest developer community by far, most applications running on it.
That first mover advantage is huge.
It really is. It creates that strong network effect. Think Uniswap, OpenSea, they're household names in the space, built on Ethereum.
But the competition is real. Layer 1s, like Solana, but also Layer 2s built on Ethereum. Is it fair to say Ethereum's at a kind of critical point?
I think so. You could argue Layer 2s have actually maybe absorbed some of the growth that might have otherwise happened directly on Layer 1. So these upgrades we mentioned, they're pretty vital for Ethereum to stay that foundational layer.
Right. It needs to keep up to remain the base. What other big trends are relevant here?
Well, look at tokenization. Real-world assets, property, bonds, whatever, being put on the blockchain.
BlackRock's getting into that, right?
Exactly. Big players are interested. And as of early 2024, Ethereum had the lion's share of that market. That signals trust, especially for high-value stuff.
That's a strong point. And stablecoins. Crucial for DeFi.
Absolutely critical. And USDT, the biggest one, still predominantly on Ethereum, around 54% back in early 2024. It just shows how central Ethereum is to the flow of value in crypto.
So despite maybe a slower period of big updates a couple of years back, things are moving again.
Yeah, that's a key observation. Development activity seems to have really picked up pace compared to, say, 2021, 2022. The upcoming Petra upgrade is another piece of evidence for that renewed push.
Okay, one last thing on Ethereum. The supply. No hard cap like Bitcoin. Is that inflation a real concern?
It's a common point, but let's look at the numbers. The rate of inflation is actually quite low now, around 0.53% annually in early 2025.
And it's expected to drop.
Exactly, because as usage goes up, more ETH gets burned through transaction fees. So the burning mechanism counteracts the new issuance. It's trending downward.
How does that compare?
Well, Solana's inflation is significantly higher, like 4.571% currently. Bitcoin's was under 1% in April 25 and heading towards practically zero long term. So yeah, Ethereum's inflation is relatively low and decreasing, less of a worry than the headline no supply cap might suggest.
Right, context is key there.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives us a solid grounding on Ethereum. Now let's shift focus to the challenger everyone's talking about, Solana.
Yes, Solana. It's definitely positioned itself as a serious contender. The whole pitch is high speed, super low fees, and, better scalability than Ethereum currently offers.
The Ethereum killer narrative.
You hear that a lot, though, as we'll probably discuss, the reality might be more about coexistence. But yeah, Solana's core differentiators are performance-based.
So how does it achieve that speed and those tiny fees? What's the secret sauce?
A big part of it is their consensus mechanism. It's a mix. Proof of stake, which we know, but also this unique thing called proof of history, POH.
Proof of history.
Think of it like a cryptographic clock ticking very, very fast, creating a verifiable order of events before consensus. It timestamps transactions.
And that helps speed things up.
Massively. Knowing the order beforehand streamlines the whole agreement process. That's how they can claim theoretical speeds like, 65,000 transactions per second. And the fees are pennies or fractions of pennies.
Wow. Okay, 65,000 versus Ethereum's, 15 to 30 currently?
Exactly. It's a night and day difference in raw throughput right now. No wonder developers are taking notice.
Are they really shifting? Is there data on that?
There is. Alliance, the accelerator program, their recent data, early May 2025, showed startup applications were almost neck and neck. Around 35% for Solana, maybe 30% for Ethereum.
That's huge compared to a few years ago.
Oh yeah, a massive shift from 2021 when Ethereum was the default choice for almost everyone. It suggests Solana's pitch about performance and maybe developer support is working.
And I saw something about stake market cap too. Solana overtaking Ethereum.
That happened recently, yeah. More value being staked to secure the Solana network than Ethereum's. It's a big vote of confidence, shows capital flowing in and investors betting on its future.
Interesting. There's also this critique sometimes that Ethereum relies too much on hackathons for innovation.
Yeah.
And maybe Solana offers better startup support.
That's a perception out there, yeah. That maybe Solana provides a smoother onboarding or better ecosystem support for new projects trying to get off the ground rather than just, weekend hackathons. Hard to quantify perfectly, but it's part of the narrative.
And institutions are looking at Solana too now, not just Bitcoin.
Definitely seeing signs of that. Companies like JNVR adding SOL to their treasury. It's not just BTC anymore. It suggests some institutions see long-term value in Solana's tech and ecosystem potential beyond just being the other one after Bitcoin.
Okay, let's get slightly more technical again. You mentioned proof of history. What other tech makes Solana tick? There's a whole list.
Oh yeah, it's a suite of technologies working together. There's Tower BFT, their consensus algorithm optimized for POH turbine for quickly spreading transaction data. It breaks it down into smaller bits.
Okay.
Then Gulfstream, which forwards transactions ahead of time to validators. Sea-level is a big one. It allows parallel processing of transactions. Huge for throughput.
So it can handle multiple things at once, unlike Ethereum's sequential processing.
Exactly. Then you have pipelining, sort of like an assembly line for transaction verification, Cloudbreak for scaling the account database, and archivers for storing historical data. It's all designed really ground up for speed.
That's quite an engineering effort. And what about the ecosystem built on Solana? Is it catching up to Ethereum's depth?
It's growing incredibly fast. Still smaller and less mature than Ethereum overall, sure.
Yeah.
But you've got DXs, liquid staking, some interesting stuff happening with restaking now, too.
And gaming, NFTs.
Gaming NFTs are big areas, yeah. And, of course, the elephant in the room. Meme coins.
Yeah.
That whole scene has exploded on Solana.
Right, the meme coins. And total value locked, TVL, has been climbing too.
Significantly. It hit over $8.3 billion in late November 2024. That shows real money flowing into Solana DeFi. And daily active wallets saw a big spike starting around September 24, which definitely ties into that meme coin craze.
Platforms like Pump.Fund seem central to that meme coin boom.
Totally. Pump.Fund made it incredibly easy and cheap for anyone to launch a meme coin on Solana. Minutes, minimal cost, no coding needed.
Wow.
Yeah, it just opened the floodgates, generated huge activity, lots of fees for the platform, and tons of these coins popping up, Peanut, Mudang, you name it. Very volatile, obviously, but drove a lot of users.
Okay, and the SOL token itself, what's its role? Supply situation.
SOL is the native token, used for transaction fees, staking to secure the network, earn rewards that way, and governance, so voting on network changes.
Supply.
As of late 2024, total supply around 579 million, circulating was about 474 million. And don't forget the partnerships, Google, Brave, Meta's Instagram stuff, Circle with USDC, Tether, big names integrating or partnering, which adds legitimacy.
Okay, great overview of Solana. So let's put them side by side now. The direct comparison, the future outlook. what are the core takeaways?
All right, head-to-head, Solana's clear wins, speed, cost, and recent growth in users and transactions. That 2,600 plus TPS currently, maybe hitting 1 million with Firedancer, it just blows Ethereum's 1530 TPS out of the water. Fees are negligible on Solana.
Huge advantages for certain applications.
Definitely.
Wow.
High volume, low cost stuff, but Ethereum still holds major cards.
Like what?
First mover advantage, obviously. The ecosystem is just vastly larger, more mature. Uniswap, OpenSea, countless DeFi protocols with deep liquidity. The developer community, while Solana is growing, is still bigger and more established on Ethereum.
And decentralization.
That's a big one. Ethereum has way more validators, over 1 million, versus Solana's, 4,500 or so. That greater decentralization is often seen as a plus for security and resisting censorship.
Makes sense. What about Solana's downsides? Those past outages are still mentioned a lot.
They are. Network stability has been a concern. It seems much improved, but the memory lingers. And that lower validator count does lead to arguments about it being relatively more centralized than Ethereum. Plus, the ecosystem, while growing fast, just doesn't have the same long track record or battle testing as Ethereum's core apps.
So this whole Ethereum killer idea,
Mm-hmm.
how realistic does it look now, considering everything?
You know, Ethereum has proven incredibly resilient. Network effects are powerful. Solana's growth is undeniable, and it's beating Ethereum on some metrics like daily users or transactions recently.
Right.
But Ethereum still dominates in market cap and overall ecosystem value and maturity. So, killer. Probably not. More likely, they carve out different niches or coexist.
Right. What are the key developments for each that we should watch? Things that could really shift the balance?
For Ethereum, potential US ETFs are huge for institutional inflow. The Denkin upgrade lowering layer 2 fees is critical for user experience, and BlackRock's RWA tokenization efforts, big institutional plays.
And for Solana?
The Solana Seeker phone is an interesting hardware experiment. Firedancer is the big one, that massive performance and reliability upgrade. The meme coin stuff, while maybe frothy, keeps driving adoption. And getting ETFs approved in places like Brazil is a positive sign too. Plus, liquid staking growth is really boosting its DeFi scene.
So fast forward a few years. What's the most probable outcome? One winner? Or something else?
I'd bet heavily on a multi-chain future. Ethereum likely stays dominant for high-value DeFi, things needing maximum security, maybe institutional use cases. Its maturity is a major asset there.
And Solana?
Solana becomes the go-to for things needing sheer speed and low cost. Think gaming, maybe social media, high-frequency trading, anything where sub-second finality and near-zero fees are paramount.
Interoperability becomes key then.
Absolutely crucial. Bridges, cross-chain communication, making it seamless to move assets and interact between them. Oh, and environmentally, Solana's POH is generally seen as more energy efficient than POS. And the FTX overhang on SOL's price. That seems mostly resolved now they've sold their holdings.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Our deep dive into Ethereum versus Solana.
What we've seen is Ethereum isn't resting on its laurels. It's evolving, upgrading, tackling its weaknesses, leveraging that huge existing network, still the heavyweight champ in many ways.
But Solana?
Solana's the fast, nimble challenger, incredible speed, low costs, attracting users and developers at a breakneck pace, especially for newer types of applications. It's genuinely shaking things up.
So not necessarily a replacement, but a very strong competitor carving out its own space.
Exactly. Different strengths, different weaknesses. Ethereum's maturity and decentralization versus Solana's raw performance. The future likely has room for both, playing different, maybe complementary roles in a bigger, interconnected blockchain world.
Which brings us nicely to a final thought for you, our listener. In this future, where blockchains can talk to each other more easily, what wins out in the long run? Is it the underlying tech-tactile temeria? The pure speed and cost advantages?
Or is it the power of the established network, the mature ecosystem, the sheer number of users and developers already there?
And maybe think about specific use cases. What kind of application absolutely needs Solana speed? What benefits most from Ethereum security and established trust?
Yeah, definitely worth digging into the projects and tech we talked about to form your own view.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.